righty. Welcome to The First Years Matter, the smart money and career choices that nurses need to make. The whole goal of this session, me and Jasmine got together because we know, like, at the beginning of someone's nursing journey, there's a lot they can do to set themselves up to have a successful, thriving nursing career instead of one where they wind up burned out and, frustrated. So we want to come together to bring those tools to you and hopefully get you to love nursing as much as we do. So I'll let Jasmine, if you want to introduce yourself first and tell them about your business, how you help people, and where to get to know you, all that stuff.
Yes. Hi. So, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
And if you can all just text us in the chat, like what year you are in nursing, if you're a nurse, so we can get an idea, because this is for, for your first year, but maybe there's some people here it's not their first year, just to get an idea. And then we have some
Nice.
students I know. Hi, Nina.
Hi.
Okay, I see senior year. You can put it in the chat how many years you've been a nurse, under a year, more than a year, just graduated in January. Congratulations. I'll just give everybody 60 seconds before that, and then so I can know who I'm talking to here. Okay, let's see. Okay, no one else. Okay, no one else is commenting. Okay, we'll move forward. I will share my screen. I will spotlight us as well. Give me 1 second. Can everybody? Okay, there we go. I'm Jasmine Waterman-Parris. I'm a nursing professional development specialist and registered nurse, and I have been a registered nurse for 22 years. I have been in the education space for about 15 of those years, and I'm very passionate about helping people transition from from student to nurse and successfully transition, and to give them the tools that they need to be successful. Okay, so share my
And tell
PowerPoint.
them more about Nurtured Novice,
Yes,
Jasmine.
yes, I will. You're absolutely right. Okay, so here we go. Can you see my screen?
I don't see it.
Oh, not yet. Zoom has okay. First share. Okay, everybody can see.
Yeah, now you can see it.
I'm so sorry here. There we go. The purple screen.
Yep, you're good.
So my background is med-surg nurse, and I went from med-surg. I did go into a little specialty of neuro specialty, and I went into an epilepsy unit, and I enjoyed being there. I did some per diem work as a vaccine nurse many years ago. From getting my bachelor's degree in nursing, I always knew I wanted to be a nurse. Went into eventually get my master's within let's say 2010. By 7 years after, becoming a nurse, I got my master's in nursing education. And I began doing adjunct clinical instructor work there. And then from there, I became the nursing professional development specialist at the hospital that I currently work at. And I've been doing that for a while. And my mission at my business, because I was so inspired to help people, I would give advice and I would offer support to nursing students and to nurses. I created Nurtured Novice LLC. My mission is to empower and guide novice nurses through their early professional journey by providing resources, personalized support, and practical advice. I'm dedicated to fostering a nurturing environment that promotes growth, confidence, and ensuring that every nurse has the tools and the knowledge that they need to thrive. With that being said, then I will let Prisca. Did you want to introduce yourself before I proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I do not have slides, people. I'm very much
I
off the cuff.
understand.
But my name is Prisca. I've been a nurse since 2011. I started off in med-surg nursing and thereby went through a bunch of different things per diem in order to find out kind of what I really wanted to do. And now I work as a nurse navigator for lung cancer patients at my hospital. I also do have a master's degree in nurse education because I do love teaching. And that kind of marries well with what I do here as a money coach. I learned basically that I didn't know jack squat diddly about money when I graduated nursing school. I made a crap ton of money mistakes. So I think in 2 years after I nursing school, I started to kind of get it together a little bit after I got married and my husband had some better strategies. And I was like, okay, we're learning the things, but still wasn't like strong in terms of like future casting and like really planning for my future when it comes to my money. And so I was like, I don't feel like my net worth looks like that of a person who's been a nurse this long. Okay. So I started listening to personal finance podcasts and slowly started developing a strategy for my finances that was so simple and yet was so effective at increasing my net worth. So prior, the first 7 years of my career, I amassed about $40,000 in investments, kind of doing things sporadically. Versus the second half of my career, I now have almost, what number are we at now? 480,000. So it's just the learning the strategies and has helped me, and the simplicity of it all has helped me to do this. And I was really passionate about helping other people do it because I don't want nurses to be at jobs that they don't want to be at. I want them to be where they want to be and do things that fulfill them even outside of work. And money helps you do that. So that's my quick spiel.
Okay. And while we are going through some discussion with you, we'll make it interactive. We'd like you to please ask any questions and put them in the chat, and we'd love to answer them in this time so that it can be as valuable as possible for you. Also, if you have any, follow-up questions, we'll give you our contact information on how to reach us beyond today. So I will continue on with my presentation. Okay, so for what I wanted to review with everyone, it really is, what are you doing to set yourself up for your future? And how do people perceive you? How are you communicating with others? How are you networking with others? How do you even see yourself? And what are your goals as a nurse? Does everyone, know their why? Because that's really important. If you are not comfortable talking with people, networking with people, that may be a roadblock and a challenge for you, and that may get in the way of you, growing, networking, expanding your wealth, expanding your business, right? Expanding your nursing journey. So networking is extremely important. So I'm just going to stop this for a moment, and then I'm just going to talk to everyone. So a few things that I wanted to address today were mindset. I also wanted to address networking. I also wanted to address just, what's your why? If there's anyone that would love to put in the chat, what, stemmed, where did your nursing journey come from? What made you want to be a nurse? Because your why will help you define, do you still want to be a nurse? Where do you want to go? That's very important for you to know for yourself. So really ask yourself, what's your why? Because that's going to help you get through those challenging times in school. That's going to help you get through those challenging times beyond school when you graduate and when you become a early career nurse. And that's going to determine whether or not you're like, what, I'm leaving this profession altogether, or I'm going to be creative like Prisca, and I'm going to use what I've gained, my talents and my skills, and take it and expand on it. Because all of us can use and benefit from what we have learned and make business from it, also make connections from it. Someone said, oh yeah, my why, it married two things I loved, science and helping people. Exactly. And personally, my business helped me because I was doing it. I was giving advice and I was supporting people. And I felt good about that. And it was a nice transition for me to go from being an educator to also being a consultant to help support people in their journey. So feel free to think about that. So knowing your why is important. The other thing is networking. If anyone want to raise their hand or put up the hand, not the hand sign, the thumbs up sign, do you network? Do you know how to network? Are you networking with people? Has that been something that you've done? If not, I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. First, I would suggest that you go to places where you want to find people who have like minds like yourself, right? You may not know what you need to know as a new nurse, but there are things that exist, such as nursing conferences, right? Has anybody gone to a nursing conference? I have been to many. Has anybody gone to non-nursing conferences, but just a conference? Okay, I'll say it. We see someone, Nina, wanted to be a nurse because she loved talking to people and science. She also knew that she could not do a desk job because she'd like to be active. Networking is hard for you, but I have done it a couple of times. Yes. Awesome. So you know what? There are some nursing jobs that are more sedentary and there are some that are not. So there is something for everyone, even in the nursing space, believe it or not. From the most introverted person to the most extroverted person, there is something for everyone in nursing. And the Meetup app is a good place for networking. Awesome. Yes. So let's share. Let me share my screen again in the PowerPoint presentation mode. So if you're not sure where to start, I would suggest that you start here, which is Introduce yourself. When you're in a room, if you don't know someone, spark up a conversation. You could say who you are, where you are in your journey. If you're at a nursing conference, this is a great tool to do. You can say things like, what excites you about your nursing journey or your next steps, right? Or what excites you about nursing in general. And then you can end with curiosity or connection, like, hey, I'd like to follow up with you if that's possible, or have a virtual coffee chat with you, or I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn if that's possible. Those are things to think about when you are in spaces. There are so many spaces that you can make connections. I see some colleagues online here who they make connections all the time at the gym with people, and they find people who are in similar careers or have family who are in careers. There's nursing conferences, there's non-nursing conferences, there's affiliations with your schools. Some of your schools have events that you can connect with people as well. Sometimes it's outside of that. So you may share a passion, like for instance, a meetup. You'll find people who have similar interests as you. One time I did an actual the pop-up dance group. What are they called? When you surprise someone. And we surprised someone that they had an engagement, and I did that, and that was something that I had never done, but that was fun to do that. The group where you go and you start dancing in front of people, then they realize it's part of a routine, a choreography for an event. But that was kind of fun. That was years ago that I did that. But you want to make sure that you think about a few bullet points for yourself to talk to people, so that when they ask you about yourself, you can give them some information. I'm not sure how many of you have a LinkedIn account, but that's a key paramount thing to consider having. If you're not yet on there, I implore you to join LinkedIn. It is a professional platform. And then you can follow people who you, admire, people who have like minds, people who may be following a track that you're not certain about, but you'd like to explore. And then if you attend a event, a conference, if you attend something that they're speaking at, perhaps a speaking engagement, making sure to follow up with them probably within that week and give them some, hi, Jasmine, your discussion on ABC topic, it was inspiring. I'd love to hear more about A, B, and C, or I thank you for sharing your tips on one, two, and three. Like that is something that would let that person know that you're interested and not just following them or connecting with them on LinkedIn. So that's something I would say is an important thing to think about. And someone said when I talk to people with the intent to network, I get nervous because I feel the need to make sure everything I say is perfect. You know what? One thing you can do if you're having problems and you're having nerves, just create a script. Keep a story in your head, like one or two stories, short and brief, and just practice. Practice them with your family and your friends. Practice makes perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be authentically you, and that'll be all. Networking begins way before actually going to a conference. I mean, you're networking in the places that you work, you're networking in your school. So, things that you can think about on your unit, are you just going through your day on your clinical unit, just if you're a nurse, and just like you're dreading your day? You're like, I just got to get through this. I'm just stressed out. Is that what you're experiencing? Or are you trying to make the best of your circumstance? If you have had a wonderful relationship with a preceptor, did you keep in touch with that preceptor? Did you ask for a recommendation? If you have a wonderful relationship with the manager, did you ask for a recommendation for them? Because perhaps you may be considering going back to school. If you're a student or a recent graduate, did you connect with your professor and ask for a recommendation, a letter of recommendation from that professor? Those are things that you want to think about. Did you leave a lasting impression on those people that you're asking a recommendation for? Do they even know who you are? That's a key thing, because that's that's the trick. They need to know who you are. You need to take some initiative. Are you a member of a student club if you're a nursing student? Have you joined a national organization? I myself are in many organizations. There are student nursing organizations. There's the National Student Nurses Association. There are organizations for different ethnic cultural groups. I'm a member of the National Black Nurses Association, and I'm a board member of the New York Black Nurses Association, past vice president of the New York Black Nurses Association. And all of these things have helped me, and I've also been able to help others as well. through those connections. I talked about the LinkedIn account. How many of you have mentors? If you do, you can chat and type in the chat. Yes, you do have a mentor. Mentorship is extremely important. I have had 5 mentors. I still have 5 mentors. They're not all formal. They can be informal arrangements, but mentors are there to help you, actualize your goals. They're there to help you figure out how to navigate your journey. They're not there to tell you what to do. They're there to give you, encouragement and support, and they don't have to be in the same field that you're in. It just so happens that all of my mentors are in nursing. They don't have to be the same, background, ethnic background as you. They don't have to be in nursing at all. But finding somebody who is willing, because it does take effort for an actual mentor to assist you. It does take effort, so that's an important thing to think about. But you want to get guidance. This is not doing, they're not supposed to tell you what to do, but they're supposed to give you some opportunity to kind of explore and discuss possibilities. So if you have someone, telling you what to do, it's probably not the best person for it. Mentorship is not always meant to be forever, but sometimes you do make lifelong friendships and relationships with people. If you're not yet a nurse, have you attended open houses? Attending open houses are important, and you're establishing your actual, presence there. What do you look like when you attend these functions? What does your appearance look like? How is it that when you speak to people, people are interviewing you or people are looking at you and assessing you when you open your mouth and then people are seeing you before you even open your mouth. So when I attend a lot of conferences or events for my business, I've made sure that I wore things that were noticeable and that were actually like either bright for the most part. So I went to an event where I had a houndstooth blue and white suit on, and I was talking to a gentleman. He got, busy talking to another person. I continued around to this event of 1,000+ people, and about half hour later, someone comes up to me and goes, "My partner said, find the lady with the houndstooth suit." Those things, you can stand out in the crowd with a, very unique outfit, So think about that. Think about what you wear. Make sure you're comfortable in what you're wearing. Think about 1 or 2 liners. I would suggest 2 for everybody. If you're going to try the networking space, if you're going to a conference, get your QR code, get your LinkedIn QR code, put it on your phone and have it as a screensaver. And then people can be ready to, connect with you. You don't have to fumble for things. You can just be like, here's my QR code. You can scan it and you can connect with people. And just try to keep some kind of note and remember who these people are. Or if you take somebody's business card, write a little note about what was the discussion, because sometimes it's easy to connect and take business cards and then you can't remember the people. Another thing I'm thinking about is, someone said, how do you find a mentor? Mentors are all around. Mentors are where you work. Mentors are in organizations. So if you're a nurse and you join an organization, some organizations offer mentorship programs like my organization, International Black Nurses. And that's one key. And then someone else is an OR nurse, has been for 15 years, currently looking for another position to advance themselves, and have looked into other areas, quality nursing or sepsis nurse. So that's awesome. I mean, changing your trajectory into where you want to go. Nursing is ever changing. The tools that you've learned in one area, you can then expand on another for certain. There's always opportunities in hospital settings to go from another role to another role. So a lot of people are just familiar with clinical bedside nursing, or they may be familiar with a nurse manager, but there's so many different roles within facilities that you can take a jump into, see if you like it. And if you don't, give it a good chance, give it a year or two. I think don't look at anything as a setback. Look at it as part of a actual opportunity to explore that hospital. And you could say, oh, this was not for me, but it helps because you got tools from that experience and you can use that in your next career or in a future nursing job. Some people, I talk about this too, they're not very happy, if they are clinical nurses, about floating. And I would just say that people should consider reversing that thought process and just go to the unit that you have to float to Look at the dynamics of the unit. Look at how the manager is interacting with the staff. Look at how the staff treat each other. Look at, are they happy? Are they miserable? Would I want to work here? Does this look like this is a better opportunity than where I'm working? It's always an opportunity of scouting everywhere you are. You can look. You might find somebody that has been an impressionable upon you, and you're like, you know what? I want to make sure I connect with this person beyond this. So don't look at those situations as like, oh my gosh, I have to float. Look at it as opportunity to scan other departments. If you have attended nursing conferences, always that's an opportunity when they have those, breakout sessions or, coffee or lunch breaks. Sit with people that you don't know, right? Don't just be with people that you know. Make the connections, introduce yourself. If you're not sure where to start in nursing organizations, where to go, I mean, your schools, if you're in school, you have non-nursing organizations and nursing organizations to belong to. I'm a part of the American Nurses Association as well. I'm a part of SONCL, which is like a nurse innovation, nurse scientist, nurse leader group. I'm a part of ANPD, which is a professional development organization for nursing professional development specialists like myself. And so I'm also a part of the National Nurses and Business Association. So you will look at things that are going to support you and feed you because that's going to help you grow. Make sure you're spending your time and you're being intentional about the spaces that you occupy. If you're volunteering in community service, it's helpful. It helps you. People get to see you. You may be acknowledged. You may be awarded in a space. You may get an award. You could be, given a, monetary award as well. You could be given just acknowledge, and it might allow you to get into the room, into a place that you never thought that you would. So think about and being intentional about volunteering, and then working at jobs that support your current aspirations. So like when you're having those interviews with people and you are asking about what does this job entail, it's not only important to find out about the salary, but like what are the benefits that they're going to offer in that position? And you want to know, is there opportunity for movement within the organization? Because that might limit you. So if that's going to be a limitation, then you may want to consider somewhere else. But also you may want to consider at some point doing per diem work so that you can get more exposure. So the more exposure you get to potentially another facility, you may see that that might be the place that you might want to work at ultimately. Okay, and just to highlight some things to think about when you're considering being as successful as you can, navigating. I call these things the seven facets of new nurse success, and it's attitude, aptitude, adaptability, agility, accountability, altitude, and advocacy. So maintaining a growth mindset, professionalism, and a patient-centered approach in all situations. You want to be teachable. You want to be positive. You want to be resilient. People are going to remember positive, but they're also going to remember the negative person, and they're going to want to stay clear from that person. And resilience is a helpful tool to have. So a key thing that is a struggle for people and new nurses, some people, they have a hard time accepting constructive feedback from their preceptors. When you don't know what you're doing, you really need to understand someone's, viewpoint, because we want to make sure that we're keeping our patients safe and we're protecting our license. Aptitude, the clinical knowledge and skills needed to perform effectively as a nurse. Learning is ongoing. You have to be your ongoing. Learning is continuous. You have to make sure that you stay up on the latest evidence-based practice. You're safely administering medications and treatments so that you don't harm a patient and then you don't risk getting your license revoked, suspended, or for anything. It could be worse, or fined. So you got to be good. Either critical thinking is not always there. Yes, you can pass the NCLEX, but sometimes the application is not there. So we need people to critically think because this is serious. It could be a matter of life or death for a patient. Agility, the ability to think quickly, problem solve, and make sound clinical decisions under pressure, right? You've got to have mental and physical swiftness, right? Prioritizing patient care. Think of yourself as a navigator, like a navigation system. You've got to constantly take in new information and you've got to navigate, right? And that's going to help you. People are going to see you with all of these areas. They're going to see you hopefully make sound decisions and safely care for your patients. They're going to trust you. They're going to, eventually want to promote you to potentially charge nurse, that type of thing. And they're going to be comfortable going on their lunch break and leaving their patients with you. Adaptability, the ability to adjust to new environments, patient care demands, and workplace dynamics. You must respond quickly to changes that occur in your patients, right? You have to be able to be rereading policies so that you're up on the best practices. You want to be mindful of patient conditions and team structures. So remember, I referred to the floating to a unit. That's always important when you're floating. You have to adapt, you have to learn, you have to understand the culture of the unit, but you have to still, care for your patients safely. Accountability, taking ownership of your responsibilities, actions, and professional development. You're responsible for your learning. You're responsible for your responses to feedback, right? Practicing safely. You have to speak up if there is an error. You have to make sure that you take steps to correct it. And we have to keep our patients safe. Altitude. You're always looking for opportunities for professional growth. Really, every year, thinking about your goals for the next year. Where do I see myself? Is this in alignment with what I want to do? Is this unit helping me, serving me, right? Am I a brand new nurse that just needs a little bit more time in this unit instead of trying to rush to get off the unit? Do I need to, improve on my skills before I move? You need to think about those things. Where do I see myself? Is nursing ultimately the end goal? Is nurse leadership the end goal? Is a different career in nursing the end goal? Or currently, am I doing the things that I need to do to line myself up for the type of job that I want in the future or career? Attending skill workshops, conferences, or pursuing specialty certifications. How can my certification that I had in med-surg support me? Those type of things. And then, sorry about that. And then the last one actually is advocacy. How are you advocating for yourself to make sure that you are actually doing what you need to do to keep yourself safe and speaking up? And also, how are you advocating for your patients? So like those are seven, facets of success that can help you navigate. All of those things can help you make it to another job, get another a business started, make those connections and networking. Your mentorship can help you, strive and thrive. And all of these connections that I've made helped me get to the next level. So I hope that those facets and that discussion about networking and that discussion about introduction and mentorship helped you think about what skills do I have? Where can I take this? Can I even do, a business from this? What am I passionate about? And I know Prisca will talk more about, taking this and, turning it into a business or making a profit from it and making better decisions with our money and our finances. So I hope that answered some of the questions that people might have had too.
Hey, thank you, Jasmine. So I just wanted to share too that when in terms of mentorship, when people are asking where to get mentors, like, there are some programs like new nurse residencies that will provide you a mentor, but this people are assigned, it may not be someone that actually fits you well. So like even looking for opportunities while you're in clinical, I think about like the nurses that I worked with on the floor. It could be your professors. There's a lot of opportunity there. And then just looking at your options. Per diem, I did a lot of per diem nursing in my early years, and that has markedly changed how I see nursing as a whole. So that even on my roughest day, I'm not like, I can't stand it. Like there's always options because there's so many things you can do out there. Alrighty, so on to now, if in order to be successful as a nurse, yes, these skills that Jasmine's talking about are critical, but also in order to avoid some of the mistakes that keep you feeling chained to a position that you have grown to hate, then that's what I'm here to talk about. It's ironic to me that, well, not so ironic, I guess over time, I've learned that your why is a big deal. So Jasmine's presentation starts off about defining your why you want to be a nurse, and that keeps you holding on. I believe you need to define your why when it comes to your finances. So for me, when I first started nursing, I had no real goal in terms of my finances, just like make money, pay bills, moving on. And versus now, when I learned that you can think about like giving yourself options, right? Not feeling crushed by debt, not feeling beholden to a job that you hate. Financial freedom is very much something that's achievable and even more so in your younger years, right? It's just so much easier when you start younger because then not only do you have the habits for many, many more years, but your efforts are compounded over all those years. It takes a lot less work and a lot less money to actually achieve freedom than you would as you get older. I learned this stuff in my 30s, so it's not to shame anyone who hasn't gotten there yet, but when you're young, this puts yourself in a better position. So what is it that you want your money to do for you besides pay bills? That's going to help you shape how you make money decisions so that, you don't fall to every whim, every TikTok ad or Facebook ad for a product, like, hey, is this putting me closer to what I want for my life or not? And you want to have short-term and long-term goals, right? So when we talk about short-term goals, a lot of times we're going to be looking at maybe something coming up very soon, like buying a home. That's kind of midterm. Short-term might be if you're just graduating from school, it might be that you were just trying to pay off some debt because, like that you were using your credit cards just to, make it through school. It could be that you want to build up emergency savings, so that way you have some security when things do go awry, because things do go awry. Life does what it does, and you want to feel ready for that. Long term, maybe it's, you want to have kids one day. But some people are like even like restricting their life in terms of like not having children because they can't afford it. And that's very unfortunate because you could really put yourself in a position to do that if that's what you so choose. And on the flip side, if you want other things like either retiring early or retiring comfortably, just give yourself the option. Like you don't have, some people I speak to, they want to go part-time. They want to give themselves the flexibility to live more of their life versus to live their life at work, right? So these are the things that you can do when you set up yourself well financially. That's your kind of, I guess, first thing I want you to think about when you leave the session today is defining that why. What can money accomplish for you? What things can it afford you? Who can it help you support? There's a lot of things, even when we're talking about like networking, some of these events, they do cost money. Conferences cost money. How do we factor that into our budget so that we can enjoy these things? Okay. Now, the next point I want to talk about is about thinking about our benefits. Okay. So, what I have found is, and I was one of these people, like you kind of just sign up for things because, hey, I'm going to get my insurance. And that's pretty much it. And then I'll sign up for the same thing every year versus actually engaging and understanding your work benefits. There's a lot of challenges in general in life, right? Where costs are skyrocketing left and right. And so there are ways that we can hedge our costs by paying attention to things like our benefits. So a lot of hospitals I have worked at or institutions that I have engaged with, they have things in place for like mental health services. So that's a line item that you could cross off if you have that available at your facility. When it comes to your healthcare, like the different healthcare plans, what does that mean in terms of if I pick a high deductible plan, can I afford that high deductible? Have I saved up the money for the high deductible in order to make this work? The other, using an FSA or HSA, that depends on the kind of plan you have. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty because everybody's stuff is going to be different. But when you use, some people just, oh, I just pay like when you have the FSA, you're using pre-tax dollars in order to pay for things. And you have a bucket of money in order to pay your healthcare bills, no matter what they are for that year. So these are things that you can marry that with the deductible of your plans in order to make life so much easier. Like last year, I mean, I deal with autoimmune stuff, so my doctors are out of pocket, and so you just use my FSA to reimburse me, and so I never have to worry about like my PT costs and things like that because I already have that money set aside. But these are things you want to explore inside your plan. Also, your retirement. A lot of facilities have some kind of matching, right? Matching to me is like minimal, like everybody needs to be doing it if you can swing it because it is free money. It's really part of your salary. And so by not matching, you're kind of forfeiting your salary. And I know no nurses like forfeiting their money. Okay. So go ahead and do that. And there was a question that's actually was pre-submitted about like, how can you invest while you have your mortgage, you have your children? You'd be surprised how little of an impact contributing to your retirement has in terms of your paycheck, right? So depending, of course, on your income, when you're putting a percent, you can actually toy with this when you log into whatever platform you have. And you could just say, hey, if I were to put 1 more percent, how much impact would that make? Dollars, usually. But down the line, it makes such an impact as it compounds in interest. So I would highly encourage you, if you're not investing at all, to start. Try to at least meet your match. And then every year at minimum, try to increase it by 1. And I'll tell you a quick story about how I got involved with my investing things. When they have, my job had 6%, you had to contribute 6% to get a match. And so that's what I was doing until I started actually learning about personal finance. And I was like, okay, let me see what it would take to max out my retirement account in order to get to retirement a little faster. And it was like 20%. And I was like, whoo, so hefty. And so when I was like, you know what, let me try it for one paycheck, right? Because a lot of these platforms, you get accustomed to it. All you have to do is log in, switch it, and then you can switch it back by the next paycheck. Okay. So I went and I tried it, and I was like, huh, I didn't die. Let's try this again for one more paycheck. And I did it and basically never stopped doing it since. So the impact that this makes is much smaller. It's more here than it is on paper. Okay. So make that difference. I'm not saying for you to go to 60 to 20, log in, increase it by 1%, increase it by 2%. And then periodically just keep upping it until you reach the number you're trying to reach in order to get to freedom, to be able to retire comfortably. Other things that, in terms of benefits that may come up, tuition reimbursement. Okay. So I was able to get my MSN, not just free, I actually made a profit because of my work retirement, my work benefits. So I would take enough classes to meet whatever my number was for the year. Let's say, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but let's say they told me I could only have 7,000 for the year. I'm like, I'm taking 7,000 worth of classes. Okay. That's what I was going to do for the year. And then the next year I took my next 7,000 until I was done with my program. And then I also had like scholarship opportunities through the same job. So even though I was getting tuition reimbursement, I still applied for scholarships at my job. And I also worked per diem for a visiting nurse. They had a scholarship thing, and I applied for that too. Listen, okay, look for every opportunity to make your money stretch, right? And the whole like premise for my business is to make your money work for you without feeling, like your life is restricted. I can't do anything because I'm trying to be responsible with money. No, you can enjoy your money and still be responsible. And the balance of the two is where I like to live. So those are some benefits, and there's more. Of course, you'd have to look at it, but really engage with your benefits. So far we have two assignments. Okay, first assignment is to figure out what your why is when it comes to your money. What do you ultimately want? And dream big when it comes to this, right? Don't just say, well, I just want to do this one hobby. Like, really think about what you can accomplish. And then two is look at your work retirement benefits. I know like open enrollment passed most places, but usually you can still log in and look so you can get familiar. So by next open enrollment, you know exactly what you want to do. Okay. I'm just going to look at some questions. So one said, what investment apps do you recommend? So I don't necessarily recommend any particular app. However, first off, let's talk about where you want to invest. If you have a work retirement plan and they have a match, that's where you want to start. Okay. Because it's the best way to make your dollars work for you. Right. Then if you want to invest outside of that, or you need to do it outside of that because your work doesn't do it, then IRAs are your next best option because they offer these tax protections for retirement similarly to your work retirement plan. When you do that, how do you choose? One, look for something that doesn't have any fees associated with it. There used to be, I remember when I first started investing, okay? Every time you traded, you paid money. Every time you bought a mutual fund, you paid money. Now those prices have decreased tremendously, allowing everyone to invest accessibly. So ideally, you want to find something that's no fees. And then looking for like some banks that you bank with may already have an investment platform attached to it. That way it might be easier just so that you don't have to log in a bunch of different places. But in terms of like what people in general in the personal finance space prefer, Vanguard and Fidelity are like top tier. Okay. Fidelity, especially is like very, very user friendly. So that's where I'd start. If you have no attachment to anything whatsoever, it's a good place to start looking into. I personally started like really understanding investing with an app called Stash. It is not free, but it really helped me understand investing a little bit more because it didn't gamify things. Robinhood, ooh, I don't like it. Okay, because it tries to gamify the whole investment process, and then it makes people want to trade and do this. If that's trading is what you want to do, fine. But I'm about making money simple, okay, and making it work for me. So that way, I don't need to look at my money all the time. That's just my personal preference. Things like the reason Stash was great is because it made things so like SEHD is a ticker for ETF, right? Don't worry about all the acronyms. Point is, In Stash, they gave it like a regular name, like the dividend, fund. And I was like, oh, I know what that means. So it helped me get acclimated to investing. But Fidelity is a great start for most people. Alrighty, we already got our first two assignments. Now, the next thing, right? This is key. Everybody pay attention. Pay yourself first. All right. So the pay yourself first is not a concept that people never heard of. It's not new, but how people apply it, I think, is lacking, right? So one, how do we pay ourselves first? Meaning before the bills are paid, I pay myself first. Savings happens first for me. Investing happens first for me. And then Verizon gets their money. Then Visa gets their money. Then Discover gets their money. Okay. So how does this work practically? This wasn't how I did it before, just to give you some context. Before, I used to do my budget where I pay everything and then whatever was left, I went to savings. And what that led to was some months I saved $200 every paycheck. Some months I save $500 every paycheck. And you know how that feels like? It feels like this with your money. Okay. There's no steady growth. And that's when people feel like, oh, like I never have any money, because some months you're not really putting that much and you could barely see the bump. Then I flipped it. I paid myself first. So I decided, okay, this is how much, let's say 200 in my paycheck. This is after my work retirement takes their plan. I also put money into my IRA. I'm like, this $250 that's going to this account, regardless of what happens, right? Everybody else will get their money after I get my money. Okay. So $250 will be transferred to my IRA every paycheck. Then whatever's left, divvies amongst the bills. Y'all can have it. Okay. So when this happens, that means every paycheck I'm putting $250 in. Every month, that's $500. Every year, that's $6,000. You see how that happens? Versus like, sometimes I'll do 170, sometimes I'll do 400, and then by the end of the year, it's like I barely did anything with this. So pay yourself first. What goals, and this connects back to your why, what goals are going to be the most important for you? So I have one savings account for vacations because I love to travel. Okay. Your money, the way you manage your money should look like you and should look like the things that matter to you. So that's one. Second, I have a separate savings account for things that will come up. Your car maintenance, your, registration for your vehicle, your nursing malpractice insurance that comes up. Like all these things that are going to happen, I have an account for that. So that way I don't have to worry about it. When the money comes up, account, here you go. Charge a card. You got it. Other thing I have money for is, of course, the emergency fund. This is so like, if something happens, I'm not able to work, my husband's not able to work, something huge, catastrophic happens, like a vehicle needs to be replaced. So things that basically you couldn't predict necessarily, you need to have space to breathe, right? There's nothing worse than, losing a job. It sucks already. And you have to just get yourself in gear to try to get another job. Okay. Like you give yourself time to and space to experience the thing and then go handle, your business. All right. So these are the things that managing your money helps you to do. What else do I have an account for? Those are the main three things. And then we also have an account for our house, right? So out of this account, we pay the mortgage, house maintenance takes care of that. When people come to clean, that takes care of that. Anything that's related to the home in itself has its own separate account. And when you do this, right, money you don't have to think about money every day. I literally look at when I get paid, I divvy up the money. I never look at it again pretty much until next paycheck. Okay. And you give yourself space to do things, to live your life rather than every day be stressed about money. And so when you're a new nurse, young nurse, about to be in nursing, you can make these intentional decisions so that you never become the nurse that you hear grumbling at the bedside that says, hey, I can't stand it here. I am stuck. I have no choice. I have the kids, clubs. I got this, I got that. Everybody's heard one of the nurses complain about stuff like that. Okay. So I want you to not feel like you have to do that. I was at the bedside right before I became a nurse navigator, and I loved it until I didn't. What did that for me? For me, I saw a lot of my patients come and didn't really have a great understanding of what was happening with their healthcare. I had patients who were on blood pressure meds, didn't know what it was for. And I really wanted to sit down and be able to explain it to them, but bedside does not really allow you that time. So I started exploring positions where I would have more time to speak to my patients. Okay. But that came with the pay cut. All right. I was working in the city, making city dollars. Okay. Now I'm coming over to Jersey and making Jersey dollars. And on top of that, I'm not bedside, right? So the income was dropping. Like, can you imagine like feeling like you have a calling to do something and then money's what's stopping you from doing it? So by learning to really understand your finances, learning to live within your means, that's part of it too. But by structuring your money in a way where it can work for you, you'll be a much happier person. You'll be a much better nurse. And you'll, whatever else fulfills you in life, you'll be much better at that as well. So those are the things that I want to cover today, where I want for people to understand that your finances, like managing that brings so much peace. Your health will be better. Your relationships will be better. It just makes a calm. It was a calm that I was not expecting. Okay, when I got my money together, I just thought my money, the big count was gonna stack up, but I didn't know the peace and the calm that was gonna come with having a good system to manage my money. And so that's now what I help women do. I help them to create a customized plan. I work with them one-on-one to help them create their plan that's going to make them feel great. And people love to budget when we budget together. So it's just a funny thing. I like when people say, "Oh, I'm excited to pay my bills." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that can happen too." So that's the end of that. So you have your 3 assignments, figuring out your why. You want to explore your work benefits for real. Okay, really get to know them and really talk to your HR people. Okay, they're not there for no reason. Okay, so reach out to them if you really, if there's parts of your employment benefits that you don't understand. And then lastly, make sure you pay yourself first. So ideally, when you have all these things in place, you're going to put yourself in such a great position for the rest of your life. Okay, when it comes to finances. And that's that.
Great. That's good. It's great advice, Prisca. There's another thing. Nina asks, what benefits do I look for in a new grad contract for both
Mm.
hospitals with unions and without unions? And I can
Oh,
speak to non-union, but I can't speak about union. But
yeah. So with unions, I mean, you don't get really a say in what happens in your contract, right? So with new grads, you want to see how long do you have to be there in order not to have to pay back things. There's a lot of things with the new grad programs now, whether it is a unionized or not unionized hospital, where you need to be, especially if they have residencies, like where you have to be there a certain amount of time or else you will get charged a fee. So keep that in mind. There's something Jasmine mentioned earlier, like where you may work somewhere and you think you don't like it, you may straight up not like it. And there's a balance between protecting your mental health and just kind of sticking it out and finding ways to adapt in the meantime, right? So maybe if you do don't like your unit, or you feel like you're not sure, like hospitals that have those kind of contracts are not going to be a great fit for you. So I would stay away from that. In general, most places don't have, unless they have a new nurse residency. I did not experience them having contracts for new nurses unless there was a residency attached. Okay. So in general, though, what benefits you want to look for tuition reimbursement. Okay. Organization that does not support your continued development, continuing education is not for you. Okay. Let them go. Fuck off. All right. Also, like looking for, of course, your healthcare benefits. And what else I would say is very important. If they offer a match, that's ideal. That would help me if I was choosing between multiple hospitals. A hospital that has a match and supporting continuing education. Things that also promote work-life balance. Anything that does that, lean towards that versus someone that's just working, oh, we just need bodies here. Okay. Anything that gives you the vibe that they just want humans working here but don't really care about you as a person, they're not going to nurture you well, and it's going to make you get resentment for nursing. And that's not something I want for you.
there are some other things I wanted to mention about benefits, things that you don't think about. You can get
Mhm.
discounts for, going to the amusement park, movie theaters. You can get discounts on, mental health apps or discounts on gym memberships. Even if, depending on where you are in your journey, there are some places now that give great benefits for family planning. Whether you want
Yes.
childcare coverage, fertility support, fertility treatment support,
Mhm.
adopting children, there are support services and resources available. And so that's a key thing. If you are full-time or part-time, you will get access to many of these benefits. If you are per diem, you will not, right? So per diem does not give you the same access, conference reimbursement or continuing education reimbursement or some of the things that I mentioned. So when you're thinking about if you're considering doing per diem and bouncing from place to place to place, or doing a lot of travel nursing, which has its benefits, you want to think about, what am I not getting? I may not have insurance coverage that I might have to pay now out of pocket for. So you have to think about that. So where are you at in your life? Are you,
Mhm.
a very young nurse? Are you able to live with your family and save up money? Are you not able to? You have no support and no resources, and it's just you. Where you are in your journey, if it's I'm going to get an RN degree or an LPN degree, whatever that is, some people are like, hey, I'm going to get my LPN degree and I'm going to let the school pay for it. Other people, they've gone out and they've gotten their RN early on, but then they didn't have to worry about the school later. Like, luckily for me, when I got my master's degree, I did not have to return time back to the hospital. But a lot of institutions require you to have a 2 year
Mhm.
commitment if you take money from them. Some scholarships for students, if you work, if you're going to get a VA scholarship, you may have to go to a VA hospital that they choose, could be across the country, and you have to work for them and give back that time. So you have to think about what you're willing to give up. The other thing I thought about when Prisca was talking too was that I was the person, I put in money as soon as I could into my investment account after my first year, but I was not very knowledgeable. I was just like, oh, I'm going to put money in all of these different buckets, but it wasn't a diversified portfolio. So I had a lot of stuff in the stuff that we look at often that we know of, but I didn't have a lot of international, accounts, or I didn't have small, medium, and large. So like, you just don't put money in the buckets. Always speak to a financial advisor, a money coach, and kind of really take an assessment of what you're doing every year. And then also look at where you are losing money and where you are potentially missing out on money. So, for instance, if you work on a unit, if you're doing great, you might be able to get money by being a preceptor or being a charge nurse. So, those things add up. If you're on a night shift, which is a little bit more brutal, you get compensation for nights. If you decide to go back for school, you get compensation for that. There are some institutions that will compensate you for getting 1 or 2 nursing certifications. So all of those things can help you build your wallet. And then also you can do per diem on the side with something you love. Like I did the vaccine job. I loved going into the city, going to some of these places, and giving out vaccines. So think about that. And then also probably do a diary. Take a record of for a week or a month of where your money is going, because you'll be surprised. Some of these subscriptions on your phone, once you hit accept, you don't realize they're taking money out of your money every month, and you're spending money in that way. But also, you are also losing money from, things that you don't use anymore, or like, memberships, gym memberships you don't go to. Think about it like, hey, if you only went once that year, how much did it cost for that membership for the year? And you only went once. That's how much you paid for that one
Mhm.
entry into that gym. So really take consideration in that. And then money is helpful, but if you don't have a good relationship with money, it's going to be a problem. You could be a millionaire and still be terrible with money. So you either have to make more income or you have to do better with your savings. So what is it going to be and what is your situation is ultimately, up to you. And so those are things that
Yeah.
I think about, when Prisca was talking.
And someone asked, would that information would be available upon job offer? So when you're interviewing, these are questions that you should be ready to ask, right? So when you're preparing for an interview, think about the things that matter to you when you do want to get a job somewhere, and hopefully they address it themselves. But if they don't, how do you tactfully ask that question? Like, hey, what, it could just be something like, what programs do you have that support your nurse's work-life balance? Like these are things that you could explore. Also, a lot of these places, their websites will have some of this information already that you could piggyback off of. And then also, when we were talking about LinkedIn earlier, look at these organizations, see if you could connect with people who are working at these organizations, and you could ask them those questions too. So all these ways, like you have to be very, I don't want to say crafty, but creative when it comes to managing things like your career, knowing what your benefits are, those kind of things. Some of it is very direct where you just ask the person. But if you're not getting the full answer, you feel uncomfortable asking, maybe you have a buttload of questions and you're like, oh, I can't ask all these questions, then look for other creative ways to find out. The best source is always going to be people who work there.
And many of them, like, you're going to be able to probably meet with the HR person, and then you would meet with the nurse manager. So the HR person,
Mm-hmm.
they should know that information.
Yes.
They most likely will give you the salary before you even ask for that. So you don't have to get nervous about that. But you can also reach out to them on LinkedIn. Reach out to the acquisition talent person and say, I'd love to chat with you, or go to some of these open house, hospital houses that they have, open houses, and just pick people's brain, because that's where you're going to find HR too, to explore what those benefits are. Don't just look at that money, because the money could be a very, attractive salary, but like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
retention rate? Are those nurses
Yep.
staying on that unit? Is it a high turnover? Because that might mean there's stress, like overly stressed, and what's going on? Is there support for your new nurses? Is there a residency program? If there's not a residency program, is there a like program that supports the development of a new nurse? And, how long do I have to stay on a unit? It may be 12 months, it may be 9 months, but you need to know those are the things you should ask. Yeah.
Yes. And so there's a whole lot we can tell you. Okay, we both are seasoned nurses. Of course, we allotted an hour for the session. So I want to thank you for joining us. Please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. I put both our LinkedIns in the chat. I'll also share with you where I communicate with people the most often is through my email list. I share practical tips on budgeting, managing your debt, investing, and your money mindset. And so these things are great when you're getting started, right? So that way you don't have to make all the mistakes that some of us make. Okay, you can learn from us. All right, you can learn from us. So that way you put yourself in a much better position. It is my goal and mission, okay, that you do nursing for as long as you love it and then beyond. Okay, like if you want to change things, you give yourself the opportunity to do that.
And I just wanted to also add that I offer workshops for transitioning to practice. I do offer cards, which are conversation cards that help you navigate some of those challenges that you have in the nursing space, clinical conversations, difficult conversations. I also offer, prep for job interviews and mock interviews virtually. So there is something for everybody. Between the two of us, we can help you navigate and be successful, or help you, figure out what it is beyond nursing or with nursing, or how to use your superpowers that you're going to get in nursing and just be even more of a rock star. Yeah.
Awesome. It was a pleasure, guys. If you do think of any other questions, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. Be happy to support you. And yeah, like
Find us on LinkedIn and
there's
try to do the practice that I mentioned about, it was a pleasure to talking to you on your session, and I liked XYZ about this, and I'd love to connect. Try that out with us.
yes,
Yeah.
practice on us.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. Have a good
Take
night.
care.
You're welcome.
Remember, your career is worth nurturing. Bye. Nina, I'll be reaching out to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's start. All right.